Wrong camera. All right, hold still, everyone. Can you hear us, by the way? Just let us know. Can I get a thumbs up or something over there in the Twitter space? All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Ken? You're on mute.
That's because you muted me. Dude, this is, I think, okay, first of all,
you were kvetching about, I don't know what you were going on about before.
I'm sorry, did you just use the word kvetching?
I did.
Like,
so
are you, is that like an SAT word for you today? Is that like on a calendar?
I don't know if that's an official word or not. But
so you're making up words.
It's a slang word of some kind, I believe. Maybe a real word, but someone will correct me, I'm sure. But anyway, welcome back to Creative Briefs. It's our weekly recap of the top news and a little bit of our own analysis on what's going on in the creator economy. Every week, Ken and I do run through a roundup of all of the news we've spotted that we think is of interest to try to club together some of the things that might make sense, but often it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. By the way, we do go live on Fridays at 8 a.m. Pacific time. You know that if you're listening live. However, you may be listening later. So you can always find our show over at created.show. It's the official show page. Has a list of all of our upcoming guests and episodes, and also a way for you to RSVP, ask questions, etc. We do stream live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, sometimes Clubhouse, and definitely Twitter Spaces. So pick your poison, whichever format is best for you. We also do post longer form content over at createdeconomy.com. So if you want show notes and stuff like that, feel free. I see Ketan wanted to raise his hand. All right. We'll get to you in a second, Ketan. Yeah, so thank you for joining us. This is episode, I forgot to update this slide. So it's actually episode 12 and it's October 15th. So don't pay attention to that. By the way, if you want to follow along, we do have a Twitter, YouTube, Flipboard, and Twitch accounts, all Created Economy. So feel free to follow us. We do share news links throughout the week in case you want to get a head start. Ken curates all of the links at his Flipboard. And of course, YouTube is the best place to watch all of our video content if you want to catch up on that later. We are doing a coin drop. So in case you do not have some AMA, which is the official currency of the Creative Economy Show, feel free to head over to bit.ly/AMA-drop-7. If you're watching, you can scan that QR code. We are giving away some coin. We gave away, I think, already half of the coin for this week, and the drop ends right after this show. So if you haven't done so, definitely head over there and do that. Last little bit of bookkeeping. We do have our own Slack. It is a great place to meet other builders and creators. So feel free to join us over there. It's at bit.ly/created-slack. Feel free to join us in there. It's a good place to suggest topics and ideas. Also where we pull a lot of our guests from. So we are looking forward to seeing you in there as well. Ken, what is up this week? We got a lot of stuff to go through as per usual.
Yes. All right. Let me see. Let's pull through the magic of technology. There we go. All right. So
There you go.
nope.
Oops.
All right. Good. Got it. All right. So yes, as Greg, as you alluded to, we have a ton of news. I think we're like at 13, 14 articles that we've kind of thought like, let's see if we can talk about it in about like
shit ton of news.
So we're gonna marathon this, and we're gonna get to it, and then we'll open it up to questions from our audience. But Greg, why don't we start off with talking about Instagram?
Yeah. So I think if you remember from earlier this summer, Instagram had announced a couple of programs, these bonus programs as they call them. And, look, the platforms are here trying to figure out how to get people to use the tools they have, and as well as how to figure out how to build a moat around themselves so you don't want to leave. These two programs that they started previously, I think they were related to Stars and one other program that they have running. But essentially, they are closing off two of those bonus programs quietly. The article is sort of framing it as quietly. My guess is that it's not that quiet. They kind of probably said they were going to end it. It's just, they didn't make a big stink that, hey, here's your last week. I think the main reason that I wanted to just talk about this was just that it does point out that these sort of bonus programs, incentive programs that they are creating, they're always going to be temporary. And so you shouldn't necessarily base your business model on the presence of these programs. But when they do launch them, take advantage of them, get in there early, fast, and often, and just be prepared that they're going to disappear, right? Instagram also did mention that they like that these were quote unquote seasonal. And so Reels was the second one. It was the Reels summer bonus. But they did mention that they will likely have additional versions of this over time. So, keep your eye out, get involved, but just remember, this is not a sustainable way for you to build your business as a creator.
Yeah, I'd imagine this would be something almost akin to like a coupon that you might get from your favorite retailer or something like that, just to kind of encourage you to constantly come back and use it, right? It's just a ploy.
Like old do you remember Express used to do those deals? Like it was like you buy something now and they give you $50 off, but you had to come back. Like
Yep.
That kind of thing. Yeah. So
yeah,
I think it's a little bit of that.
I mean, and you see this a lot with tech companies as well. Whether if you're using like Uber Eats or you're using Grubhub or anything like that, they're always they always are incentivizing you. Of course, that's from a consumer level. This is from obviously a more like a B2B type of an approach. And you're right, Greg. I didn't think that you should be putting your eggs in all in one basket, so to speak, in terms of like saying, hey, let me bank my livelihood on Instagram paying me this steady income, because it's not going to be steady income. There's no chance. Like, I think anyone who's been around social media platforms kind of knows that even this is more ephemeral than their ephemeral products, right? You talk about from a developer standpoint, like developers can't bank on always having access to these platforms, and very similar, the same thing for creators. I mean, Snap was probably the more noticeable one that kind of like said, all right, we're done with this creator fund, and now Facebook's kind of doing the same thing. But I think I'm not doubting that Facebook's going to say, hey, we're going to come back with something else. They're obviously going to retool and find the right way to optimize it based on more seasonal campaigns. I mean, hey, let's promote Reels this month. Okay, let's do some sort of a promotion. But yeah, I think adding, finding different ways to gain revenue is always a good thing for creators, and not necessarily banking it on the goodwill of these platforms. So,
yep.
All right, staying with the Instagram. And now, as we talk about, hey, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Here's some Here's some interesting news for those that are using Instagram Live to create their content, right? So now there's going to be two new features that Instagram's rolling out or has launched. First one is scheduling. So things like, for if you want to go live with somebody, so if Greg and I wanted to take this and move this exclusively to Instagram Live, for example, we could schedule this show in advance.
You got to use your stupid app to do it.
Well, if only Zealous kind of would, have some sort of integration.
We can stream to Instagram. It just violates their terms of service. So.
Oh, that thing, whatever. But no, it's this. You're going to be able to schedule a live stream up to 90 days in advance. And then you can obviously share it across Instagram to your fans and let them know. There's another feature which the company says has been like one of the most highly sought after features is practice mode. And
right,
in a way, you can kind of think of it like a green room, right? Where you can, if you want to test out environments beforehand and without test out the live streaming capabilities beforehand with your guests before going live, and so that way you kind of have a little bit more of a seamless experience. Then you can use that, right? If you've ever seen Doctor Strange, the Benedict Cumberbatch one, it's almost like that, where they can kind of create this kind of like this fictitious staging area, right? That's kind of what this is, right? And so you can do that, and so you can make all the mistakes you want in audio, video, whatever, before you go live. And so it's all then you kind of update make sure you have a more professional experience. So.
Yeah, look, Instagram is just never going to get there, much like TikTok is going to take its time to get there, until they allow support for more professional tools for streaming, right? Otherwise, I just think it's still a fundamental pain in the ass to stream here, right? Like mobile only experience. Streaming is a lot of work, and doing it only on a phone is really, really difficult. So, I mean, I'm glad they're adding more features, and I hope this is sort of the opening towards like more advanced tools. But like you won't be competitive in the streaming platform unless you support the other suite of tools that, I'm not saying that from a Zealous point of view, just like there's a whole ecosystem of things that exist around streaming.
Well, and you're right, because scheduling is not a super innovative thing, right? I mean, it's certainly helpful for creators, but no, and I don't mean that like as a snark take on Instagram, but it's like they are catching up. but they are catching up, and with regards to adding scheduling, they're catching up to YouTube, TikTok.
It's a good sign that there's momentum, right? So let's hope that it continues for sure.
Yeah, of course, obviously, being able to schedule it adds more takes advantage of network effects and yada 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 and all that fun stuff. Okay, I think this one was mine as well. Sticking with Facebook and everything, I think this would be our last Facebook related news item here. So those that are fans of their Clubhouse product, feature, rival, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be available more broadly to those outside the US, obviously, so more people globally. Let's see. Here we go. It's going to be available to those in groups. So, you see a lot of these ads that commercials on TV where Facebook's been going hog wild promoting groups and saying, hey, this is where you can communicate with people about astrology or, pets or whatever. Now you're going to be able to do live audio in these type of groups. Facebook's live audio will also be available on Android devices. So yes, thank you, all you iPhone people. I'm going to be able to tap into see what you guys have been experiencing. And very similar to what you have on Twitter Spaces, which you're on now, if you're listening to us, it's going to be available. You can listen to it on desktop. You can listen to Facebook Rooms or Facebook Live Audio on your desktop, although you won't be able to create it on desktop. You're still going to have to go through the mobile app. So very similar to Twitter Spaces. So a lot of these are catching up. It's obviously nice features to have. Great. One thing that I want to call out here in this related to this article is that the Facebook has this feature called sound bites, which are basically like Instagram Reels type clips. So almost like, Greg, how we would go into Descript and extract like a clip from here and share it. That's very similar. That's a soundbite according to based on Facebook, and that's going to be rolled out to more users in the US. So
okay, it's like clips in Clubhouse now, or
yeah, very very similar to clips like in Clubhouse. It'll be found in newsfeed, but but you can record them in different tools. But it's also they say Facebook says that sound bites is in early development, so we're gonna we'll see how that goes. Obviously, digestible content. People are on the go; they just want quick hits. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, would you want?
I've never used Facebook Audio once, so I have no idea if it's any good.
I mean, if you spent a lot of time kind of scrolling through TikTok, Instagram Reels, Facebook Stories, whatever, like late at night, like you kind of enjoy. At least you find it addictive to kind of cycle through like all these 30-second clips. So maybe that makes it easier to kind of like get more content out there. Obviously, the more content you listen to, the more data that Facebook gets, and the more ads are served. So, all right, next one. Twitter. Hey, if you're, we're on Twitter Spaces. Fun fact, this is my first hosted space on Twitter. So thanks everyone for tuning in.
Really?
It is.
Never hosted space before?
I've never hosted. I've joined. I've never hosted.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
the reason we did that, by the way, is because we applied for this program and we used Ken's account because he has twice as many followers as me. So we hope that gives us an advantage in the race.
Quantity does not mean quality. Let's be honest here. But
well, we know that obviously. The low number of subscribers. By the way, if you don't follow us on YouTube, follow us. I think it's interesting. Yeah, go ahead. Fill us in on this article, though.
Right. So basically, what we're talking about, Twitter is launching Spark, which is an audio creator program to boost spaces. And this is it's almost like a creator fund, but it's more akin to an accelerator, right? It's open for applications. Those that can apply, it's a 3-month accelerator program. So very similar to Y Combinator, 500 startups, et cetera, but specifically those that are creating these audio rooms. Twitter is going to give you financial, technical, and marketing support, which means that those that apply will get, $2,500 a month for those 3 months. Plus, you're going to be given a stipend for for monthly ads that you can promote your show. Those that can apply, you don't actually have to be an established. You don't need to have an established program on Twitter Spaces. You can be a noob, you can be a veteran, whatever. The application is pretty straightforward. Like Greg mentioned, I applied for this show to be on there, so fingers crossed that we get accepted. So basically, this is a nice way to kind of encourage or incentivize this type of more people to create. So we'll see how it goes. The notifications will go out later on, I believe next month. So we'll find out if we get accepted or not. But yeah, this is kind of falls in with the latest updates to Twitter Spaces. Kind of like boost people to do more than just tweet. That with Twitter events, ticketed events. Sorry. New ways to invite listeners through DM, expansion of Spaces to non-English language and Android that's coming soon, and much more.
I hope they just don't screw it up like Clubhouse screwed up the Creator First program.
Yeah, that was a very shocking type of revelation. I mean, that wasn't a good way to do it. But hopefully Twitter has much more experience with their in their team to kind of like actually make this a sound investment. I mean, but it's really not that much that they're putting in, right? I mean, what was it like? Where did I see it? It was like 2,500. Yeah, 2,500 a month, which is not that much, really, right? But I mean, it's not. It's really not that different.
Show like not a startup, right? Like I think it's a decent amount of money. It's not enough to live off of, but I think it's enough to sort of get to the help start to establish like a production pipeline and some of the co-marketing maybe that you might want to do around it.
Yeah. Kind of clarify that 2,500. It's a flat rate. So it doesn't matter how well or how bad you think your show is doing. But you have to broadcast twice a week. Right. So, we have to do this.
If you're listening from Twitter Spaces, you should tweet out that you're in here right now so that people know our show is awesome.
All right. Moving on to, hey, look who's back. Greg, Byte.
Shady
I don't think
fact.
I don't think I've ever used Byte before.
Yeah. So if you remember Vine, then Dom, the creator of Vine, which shut down, created this other company called Byte. And apparently Byte's been in beta for longer than anything. The only thing longer in beta than Byte was probably Gmail. But Byte apparently was in beta for like 3.5 years and then just got acquired by this other company called Clash, and is now being run basically by this another early Vine celebrity, I guess they were called, whatever, Vine influencer.
Fine, yeah.
Right. And it just relaunched. I believe they were acquired in January, but I believe they launched this week. And the news, what I think about is great about this actually, and the notes I have here that I wrote down were that, what Clash is doing seems to be sort of going for that cream of the crop sort of top part of the audience, but they're focused on monetization tools around the creator themselves. And it seems kind of like almost like a Patreon style competitor in some ways, but you are still sharing short videos, but you're able to monetize sort of that activity, right? So you can, they have their own sort of currency that they call drops, which I find very confusing. But you can use these drops as a way to pay or reward creators for sort of some of the interaction or the effort that you're finding. For me, the interesting part here ultimately is less like what Clash is doing. That doesn't feel that unique per se. Obviously, I think Instagram has this now. Don't they have like private story feeds and stuff like that also? So
yeah.
So it's less so that this is super compelling as an app unto itself. What I think is compelling is just seeing creators stepping into the role of co-founders of software companies, as well. Not, just as advisors, or maybe sometimes investors, but also like actually at the helm and running it. And the feature set, I think, speaks to even the design, I think, speaks to sort of like the power of having a creator, sort of on the cap table and at the top.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, these are, I'm not surprised that you're about this type of app. You're going to see a lot more of these type of apps that are, especially as they see the limitations of the incumbents, the big tech guys, the Instagrams, the Snaps, the, YouTubes, the TikToks. So they're always going to like nitpick and kind of like, instead of like, startup rivaling against startup, they're going to go after their,
Actually, Ken,
Goliath.
Do you have that other article that is very related to this one? Or did we keep it in? What's the thing called?
Fanfix,
that one.
Yes, that one is.
Yeah, so very related. Another bit of news this week. I think the information covered this.
Yep, got it.
But Cameron Dallas, who was an Instagrammer, well known for his Instagram, has joined this company called Fanfix, which I hadn't heard of before, but apparently is a Gen Z version of Patreon. 250 creators in the first 9 months of existence. Hey, is that good? I don't know. Doesn't blow me out of the water, but I guess, maybe I think what they're hoping is that by bringing Cameron in, they will grow that number far more rapidly. By the way, once again, it is a creator joining as sort of like a co-founder of the organization. I think, again, it points to potentially, some of the significant power of having a creator at the helm in your business. So, again, I don't think that the news here, was that Fanfix is something interesting or, that we should be paying attention to per se. It's more so that there was a creator joining the ranks of co-founder.
I wonder though, is this, are we going to start to see, is this any different than like will.i.am or Alicia Keys joining Intel or BlackBerry as like a chief design officer or anything like that? They very well could have some, like the traditional celebrities could very well have some sound advice, but I mean, on the most part, it's more of a promotional announcement. Is this almost but on this side of the table,
sure,
are we seeing like these celebrities actually being legitimate business people?
It's a fair question. So I think for example, with Clash, he's the founder of the company, right?
Okay.
So I feel like he is going to be highly involved. With Fanfix, I don't quite he's joining 9 months in. That doesn't mean, he isn't still a co-founder per se, right? But it's possible, right, that these are sort of like surface level moves. I do think like in large corporate structures and organizations, yes, right, like you'd probably have a bit more cursory involvement, right? Like how truly involved is someone in the strategy of the company? I don't know. Or do they just show up like once every 3 quarters to look at mock-ups and they're like good, bad, like whatever, right? Who knows? I would hope that at the startup level, though, because startups just don't tend to have they usually don't want to waste equity unless it's creating a tremendous amount of value, that you're getting more than just sort of a name, right? I think that otherwise I would just be adding folks as advisors or maybe as investors.
Yeah, good point. All right, let's talk about NFTs, right? And so Visa made an interesting
others that I lost this week, but there was 2. Who else didn't? 2 other companies, big companies, add NFTs.
Yeah.
Isn't it like Budweiser or something? Or?
Yeah, Budweiser did, and there was I think I want to say like Nike or something, but somebody else did. Yeah, there's been there's no shortage of NFT news here, right? But I mean, it's kind of interesting to see, this partnership between Visa and Mika Johnson here. So
that was the powerful part, though, right? Was that they are specifically, Visa is calling out, I think, specifically sort of targeting and facilitating sort of the creator economy. I think the others are more just dipping their toes kind of into the space. And Visa's made news in the past, I think, for buying some early, NFTs or, well-known NFTs. But, just to read a little quote from here, sort of Mika puts it, he says that NFTs unlocked an opportunity for me to build a community of people interested in supporting my work in a way that goes way beyond similar liking or sharing. With guidance from the early crypto community, I'm able to build a small business around my crypto native character, Aku, that has grown into a global media company. That's super interesting, right? But then, the obviously it's the Visa press release, but they're saying we're excited about the future of the NFT commerce and what this technology can offer to small and micro business owners in the creator economy, which I think is just interesting to see a company like Visa addressing the creator economy sort of front on, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why we're partnering. I don't really know, again, what partnering with any one individual per se, though, sort of can do, right? This is obviously a person who's done well here, but I don't know if that's enough, right? But look, I appreciate the effort. I appreciate them recognizing creator economy as something on its own. And I think we're going to see more of this. I mean, look, this is at the payment level. So if NFTs and crypto can become, sort of pliable, like at the level of fiat, I think there's some really interesting things for that general, sort of broad goal of all of us is to make crypto easier to understand and easier to use. And so if Visa could facilitate that, we would be in a very different place than we are right now.
I find it very interesting that Visa is embracing NFTs. As there's been a little bit of uncertainty from the government level in terms of embracing Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. How do you tackle that from a securities issue? But I think great. Visa's doing this. If they're going to be allowing people to facilitate transactions. I mean, look, Visa at its core is all about transactions and payments, right? So why not allow, if you see an uptick in NFTs, which are pretty innocuous for the most part, minus the, you got to worry about the scammers, but like the actual products itself are pretty innocuous. It's like you're seeing a lot of these transactions and a lot of value to it. Well, it makes sense for Visa to be a part of this.
And I was going to say that, Ken, I agree, because I think, I think NFTs are ripe with dangers in lots of ways. But I think the more interesting part here, to your point, is that because it is ultimately relative to transactions, the better use of NFTs, let's so say, that as a store of value is like almost as a receipt in this context, right? Mm-hmm. And so to the extent that like Visa being a transactional company, generating receipts and manifesting them or sort of like leaving them behind in the form of NFTs, that has some power potentially, right? It's proof of purchase, it's proof of warranty, et cetera. Like some of these things could be used. I do think obviously there are NFT use cases that are community oriented, which is what they point out sort of in Mika's use cases, or some of his use cases. And I think the community oriented use cases are sort of like orthogonal from like financial value. And so I do think like it's this interesting link to sort of the future potential of community economics being part of like sort of commercial economics.
At the very end, I mean, props to Visa, props, kudos to Mika for this great thing. I think though, like we shouldn't blow Visa's move out of proportion because I think this is very much an experiment.
For sure.
This is not like this breakthrough moment where, Visa actually declares, hey, we are fully going to allow you to pay for NFTs using your Visa. Like, I don't think that move is actually going to happen for a little bit of time.
Speaking of someone who is jumping in wholeheartedly, I think our next article fits into that boat.
Oh, you mean this one? So, we talked about OpenSea in previous episodes, and in all the work that they've done and the amount of traction that they gained. Well, Coinbase wants a piece of the pie here, and what Coinbase is the headline here is Coinbase is launching its own NFT platform to take on OpenSea. It's going to be called, I think it's like Coinbase NFT. Very straightforward, no qualms about it. So basically, what they've announced in a blog post is that Coinbase NFT will make minting, purchasing, showcasing, and discovering NFTs easier than ever. We're making NFTs more accessible by building intuitive interfaces that put the complexity behind the scenes. We're adding social features that open new avenues for conversation and discovery. I think that there's a couple of obviously pot shots here at OpenSea, especially in terms of discoverability of NFTs, the social aspect of it. OpenSea has had issues with this type of stuff. So, this is going to be, obviously with OpenSea having a huge dominance of the NFT marketplace, this makes it a little bit, offers that bit of a diversity. And the fact that Coinbase also has a wallet kind of makes it hopefully maybe it might make it a more of a seamless transactional experience for people. And let's put it into context here at how popular or is this. They opened up a wait list. This was on the 12th. So this was 3 days ago. More than 1 million people, maybe let's say 1.25 million people have signed up for the wait list within the 24 hours after they announced this. So there's a lot of people that want in on this. There's Coinbase is doing this, doing a gamified waitlist approach. So those that, send out a referral link and those that click and sign up, the referrer will get a boost at greater access into this. So,
should I share my link so I can get higher up?
Wait, no, let me share my link. Why are you sharing your link? But Greg,
I was 70,000 before, so.
Well, okay. Well, Greg, you are more into the NFT side than I am. Like I was gifted an NFT. You have many NFTs, much more NFTs than I. Would you sign up for this? I know I signed up for this just to gain access. Check it out.
I jumped on it right away. So there's something that feels, maybe it's just a perception thing, obviously, but there's something a bit more comfortable about Coinbase to me, right? Just as obviously they were YC, like they were in the batch before me, but they're a public company. I just feel like there's a sturdiness around the Coinbase, and it's not a perfect company by any means. And obviously the whole space is ripe with problems. But I do feel like having more of these pieces connected, as surprising as it seems, feels better, right? Like for all the decentralization, like I feel like there's someone to talk to if I have a problem, right? Whereas like I have a MetaMask wallet, which I use on OpenSea, and I definitely don't feel like there's any way to fix anything if something goes wrong over there, right? So I do think Coinbase entering the fray is just going to be useful because there are a tremendous amount of people. Coinbase is an exchange primarily, right? And so, I think having them be more present is just a good thing, right? I imagine a significant amount of volume will move over to that ecosystem.
Yeah, and actually, I misspoke earlier. It wasn't 1.25 million that signed up; it's 1.4 million.
Yeah.
So a much higher number of people there. But yeah, you can totally take a look at it. OpenSea again has a huge market share. But there's all these others. Coinbase is not the only one that's going after. Binance and FTX are exploring options in here as well. So there's going to be a lot more marketplaces that are going to be existing, that are going to come out of the woodworks soon to kind of really tackle the NFTs type of space. And that hopefully that makes it easier for people to buy stuff. So we shall see. Oh, but that might actually open up in the future. Could we start to see very similar to what every other marketplace has, like exclusives, right? NFT exclusives. So you're going to start to see, could we start to see these type of companies strike deals with creators to build specific NFTs for them?
I mean, well, I don't know if you would build it for them, but I do feel there is a de facto exclusive now. Like people tend to launch their NFTs on OpenSea, right?
Right.
So
Well,
you can
because
get
it's the biggest one. You get the most exposure. But let's say Binance and FTX and Coinbase, they all launch. So now you have four ones.
Look, the leverage is the fees, right? So
Yeah.
its audience would be the first factor, and then the fees could be something you potentially negotiate for.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like equate it to. So I'm not sure if you guys can see, but I have I have a Funko addiction here. I have a bunch of Funkos, and I think the Funkos, for example, you can buy it from their website, but they offer exclusive Funko action figures at like Target, different ones for on Amazon, different ones at different toy stores and chains. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here in this regard. So. The Bored Ape Club, for example, could be swayed by OpenSea to only have their NFTs on that marketplace, while you might see the crypto corgis could be exclusive on a Coinbase NFT and so on and so forth for a specific collection, so to speak.
I don't think you can do it exclusive per se. Like the blockchain is still there. If you want to purchase, it's still there. So.
Well, I mean, in terms of discoverability, perhaps, I don't know. There might be something there, but
the point is that that already exists. That's how it works now, right?
Okay.
So do I imagine it continues? Yes, right. Like you want to get verified on OpenSea the way you are, right? Like, and that's where you tend to list them. I've some folks will trade on multiple places, but you usually almost always start in one, right? And so,
right.
So yeah, I imagine it stays the same.
Cool. Why don't we talk about United Masters? What's this about, Greg?
So this was another related sort of article, but it was just sort of that. I forgot who was putting this together. It was a music distributor, and we were talking about, I think, Coinbase, and obviously previously we were talking about who is it, Spotify?
Yep.
Or no, Twitter was allowing you to get paid in Bitcoin, and now basically United Masters, which is a large U.S. Music distributor, is working with Coinbase to actually roll out a way for musicians to get paid in crypto. My advice and warning here, of course, is still the same, that unless you are, in a financially sturdy situation where you don't need to worry about the money, getting paid in crypto is not necessarily an optimal path for you, right? So much like most creators, I'd still be worried about making sure your rent is paid and a bunch of other things before I worry about sort of getting crypto. Obviously, look, crypto is appreciating, and I think Bitcoin's almost at 60,000 right now. There are rapid appreciations, but unless you're going to be in there playing the game and manipulating it, and then also dealing with all the tax implications of that, this should be money that you don't need, right? If you're going to take payments in crypto. But because here's the thing, it's not like the crypto universe is like a large untapped set of people that you can't reach, right? Like everyone in crypto has a credit card. Everyone in crypto has, a bank account, most likely, right? So, it's not like you were like, oh, I only can bill in US dollars and somehow this lets me add in euros or something, right? I think it's just a very different sort of posture, but it's leaking out there more and more.
Yeah. Cool. Moving on. There's a fun, nice article from Sarah Fisher at Axios. not a big news hook here, but something I wanted to call out here. The headline on Axios is the creator economy is failing to spread the wealth, and in this piece, Sarah kind of highlights the breakdown of the creator payouts, right? And in terms of who's actually making the most money here. Like, for example, for based on the Twitch hack that we talked about last week, the top 1% of all streamers are earning more than half of all revenue on the platform, right? So last week we kind of looked at the 100 the 100 Twitch streamers that kind of earned the most, and obviously it was Critical Role had like 9 million or whatever in that 2-year span, but then if you look at the different, if we kind of glance at what was afterwards, like from 100 to 600 or 1,000, those numbers, the amount earned would probably be paltry compared to what these big streamers are getting. And so, in fact, it's like here it says, while a handful of creators have made substantial money, the vast majority of earners on Twitch have made less than $120 this year. Right. So $120. Right. And of course, we've looked at
the leak, right? This is from the data that got stolen.
Yeah. From well, that was $120 this year so far. Right. In 2021. And that's based on a report in the Wall Street Journal. And we've talked about how creators in general are barely making it by, right? They're not earning like a livable, they're not making a decent amount, right? They're not raking in the $100,000, right? Only a select amount of creators are actually doing it. Most of them that kind of want to make this a living are probably earning, 40,000 or whatever, based on, studies that we've covered here. But let's take away Twitch, for example, and move on to things like Substack here. According to Axios, the top 10 publications on Substack collectively make more than $20 million a year in subscription revenue. Less popular newsletters make tens of thousands annually, right? And podcasters, top 1% of podcast earners, make the vast majority of podcast ad revenue. Look, this is shining a light on the distribution of wealth in this.
It's a long tail, though. It's always this.
Yeah, I mean, this should not shock anybody, right? I mean, every business, every industry, every economy will always have this type of inequality, and there's always going to be efforts to reform it, to kind of make sure that there's opportunities for those that don't have it, hopefully, to kind of increase their earnings. And this is a good benchmark to look at and say, like, what happens a year from now? Are these platforms making it any better for everyone to prosper on them? So,
well, so here's the other thing. So one, I agree. That's a really good point. It certainly backs into what we were talking about before, that you shouldn't be worried about crypto. You should be worried about dollars still, right? Now, here's the thing. There are a lot of people who are fairly wealthy in crypto that might be able to pay you more than you might be able to make from other folks, but I don't know. I wouldn't want to make that bet personally. But I do think the other part, where this isn't entirely the whole picture, is just it probably doesn't account for dollars earned outside of the platform, right? So sponsorships, brand deals, ambassadorships, direct sales, merchandising, et cetera. All those other things are factors. Now, agreed. If you're making $120 a year, you're likely not doing a whole bunch of the other stuff either, right? But I'm hopeful that the numbers are a little higher per creator. But this is not out of whack in any way, and it really points to, I think, what the opportunity in the creator economy is, right? Which is to figure out how to actually get all of these people up to a livable wage, then to a growing and sustainable wage.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of crypto, why don't we talk about this? Apparently Stripe is interested in crypto, Greg.
Again.
Right. Parentheses again. Yes.
But so Stripe used to allow you to, I believe, trade in crypto, right?
Yeah.
And they took it away largely, I believe, because of just like all the, sort of volatility sort of in that market. But, look, again, right? much like we probably should have rolled this with that Visa story, but in the same vein that Visa supporting, sort of like broad applicability or making sort of normalizing sort of spending in crypto, leveraging crypto, using crypto. Stripe, which was an equally horizontal sort of player, obviously that is a gateway for Visa, but also is a gateway for MasterCard and a whole bunch of other payment platforms. Also, it's probably the darling of like most of sort of the startup ecosystem, the emergent technology stack, right? I think to the extent that Stripe can get involved here, awesome. Like it does give more fluidity to the use of these resources and assets. And I think like these are good changes that are going to benefit all of us over time.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think this is very much like Visa, and this is not suggesting that they're building out their team. They are not making a move to say, "Hey, we're going to embrace it."
Hiring people. That was
exactly
what that post said.
Yeah, they're not saying, "Hey, we're going to now accept Dogecoin. We're going to now accept we're now going to support Bitcoin and Ethereum." They are not saying that at all. I mean, but what this could highlight is future opportunities because as you're starting to see more transactions in the blockchain, and especially from not only from an NFT standpoint, but from the rally coins, the creator coins, to even within retailers, like Stripe wants to be a part of that, and their reach is not just based in the U.S. It's international. It's across the internet. So they want to be a part of this, I would imagine. And I don't think that they would shrug off any opportunities to take advantage of embracing any form of currency, be it digital or fiat. Obviously, they are not they kind of did it a little bit of reverse last time. Last time they kind of went full support, like, hey, we're supporting Bitcoin. And then months later, oh, sorry, nope, not anymore. It's a lot of volatility. Now they're like, okay, why don't we crawl before we run? Let me walk before I run, right? And they want to see where they go with this Web3 type of technology. So, as they move forward and become a larger entity to kind of rival Visa, rival PayPal more, and everything else. I mean, I think it's interesting to note as well, like Square also has been at the forefront of embracing crypto.
Yeah.
So, but I think
it's
this is on a different scale.
We need the sort of legacy to upgrade, right? Otherwise, all of this is like a side activity.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that if Stripe embraces crypto, blockchain, NFTs in all its forms, like that'll make it easier for other platforms to transact it. It makes it easier for Shopify, for example, for Twitter and all these other things to kind of really facilitate tipping, rewards, purchases, all of that stuff within the crypto space. So I think maybe a lot of these platforms are looking at that have already built on Stripe are looking at it as like, hey, okay, this is great. Let me see what the potential is for me to kind of increase my financial opportunities, so to speak. So we'll see what happens. So
yeah.
All right, let's talk about YouTube for a second. YouTube Spaces. I remember going to YouTube Space in LA years ago, back when I was reporting for the Next Web. It was a fun little place. It was kind of bizarre to see, like, oh, why would creators go to this fixed spot to do this? But they've, YouTube opened a bunch of these locations around the world, not only in Los Angeles, like I think somewhere in Europe, Tokyo, all these, New York, I think had one. But obviously the pandemic kind of really screwed up these things because nobody really wants to go into these places anymore. But Greg, why don't we talk about this?
Well, I think, some of this is one, I think it's a function of just sort of our pandemic times, right? So, folks being able to go out and stuff like that, I think has been a difficult challenge for everybody, right? I also think just with the explosion of the number of creators, and these venues tended to sort of have some gating requirements, right? So, but I do think more and more people are passing and surpassing sort of the thresholds required to get in. So you could imagine that, with an explosion in the number of creators in the YouTube ecosystem, that having a few stand-up places is not enough because their folks are in more places, and then also at the same time, with health constraints and other things like that, I think it makes for a challenging situation. So I like the idea of the pop-ups because I do think there's so many markets and opportunities for people to potentially learn about how to be a YouTuber, as well as for reaching and extending some of these benefits to other folks. The pop-up model, I think, does give them the opportunity to sort of say, great, we're going to go do this, in 30 cities or 300 cities, right? Instead of just having these like large dedicated spaces. Now, will this potentially come back? I don't know. I do think there's potentially a commercial opportunity here, right? Like for someone to offer it. There's a company called Suna based here out of Denver. Elizabeth is the founder. They do like a Kinko's model, but like kind of like for photography. And they have locations and they also have a network of people who have studios that can help you with your product photography and things like that. I could see Asuna potentially expanding into like saying, oh, we actually now support like video sets and stuff like that, or other things like that. So this seems to make sense to me. I don't think this is sort of a negative blow on the space or something that's happening that's to the detriment of the space.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're right. You're what you said is completely right. I agree with it. I think pop-ups are the way to go. Holding out these big facilities is a big resource drain, and maybe YouTube's like, hey, we had a good run for about 9 years. Obviously things have changed dramatically in those 9 years in the creator space. There's a new creator that sprouts up probably every millisecond or something like that. I don't know that's a very arbitrary statistic that I just made up. But the point is that there's a proliferation of these type of these creators. And maybe they're like, this is not totally inclusive, this is not benefiting everyone. The point of these YouTube spaces allows specific creators who apply, who meet a criteria, can go in and produce quality professional videos, right? And maybe YouTube's looking at it as like, look, this landscape is different from what we started 9 years ago. Obviously the pandemic's not helping, and we need to retool, and we find better value with these 45 pop-ups that we've done in 20 cities around the world. And there's been more of an impact, and competition is a lot fiercer than it was 9 years ago. You didn't have TikTok, you didn't have Instagram video reels, whatever you call it. You didn't have Snap, right, as dominant, right? I mean, YouTube still was the big thing. I think the closest thing that kind of came to YouTube was Vimeo or Vidler, right? And Vidler just died out quickly, and Vimeo kind of moved away from that entirely. Like, we're going to be more professional of a video network. We're not really a social network per se. But now YouTube's finding itself kind of like, facing competition across multiple fronts. So, they need to retool and rethink their strategy. And this is probably the outcome that they decided on. And, that's the way business is. I mean, as we talked about earlier with, Instagram's, what was it, the fund or whatever, bonuses, you couldn't bank on this being a permanent thing. Just 9 years, great. But if you're going to bank on having access to YouTube spaces forever and ever, that's a fool's gamble right there. But all right, so we have 5 minutes left. Why don't we talk about this fun little article, right? And we've talked about the creator economy being the wild, wild west. I think at this point we might as well blast the Will Smith tune here. But David Pierce over at Protocol wrote this good piece on the link in bio phenomenon, right? And it offers, everyone has this link in bio type of I guess interest, right? Because the social networks, the social platforms don't offer you that capability. But what this piece sheds a light on how important that single line in your bio has become in everything. Because before, didn't it's like, how often did you click on someone's bio link in order to access, to learn more about them, right? I mean, you're like, oh, let me go through their Instagram pictures. Okay, click, 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 whatever. But that was it, right? I mean, now that has become an important part. Whether you're in it for the brand, you're doing it for a brand sponsorship, you're highlighting an article or whatever. And there's a lot of these other companies that are doing. Obviously, Linktree is perhaps the most prominent one. Koji is out there as well. There's a bunch of these other ones that are, a dime a dozen. Greg, you and I know a bunch of friends who have started these type of companies, right? So, I think this is, if you've ever been kind of curious in terms of like getting a deeper dive in terms of what's going on in the creator economy and what the fascination is in this, like, is there actual business model for these type of things? It very well is, right? And we talked to Josh Constantine. We had Antonio Gary from Spore. We talked about this type of stuff, right? And I encourage you to our listeners to kind of go back to those video interviews and check it out. Very informative stuff we've learned. But yeah, just more. I mean, there's no breaking news insights here. It's just if you just more like highlighting this is something to pay attention to. And if you wanted to learn more, check out this protocol article that is entitled. Come on. I don't know which up is down, left is right. How Lincoln Bio created a high stakes startup race. And that's from David Pierce at Protocol.
Yeah, I don't like the framing of that, unfortunately, but I obviously it's a category. I don't think they created the Lincoln Bios per se created the space, but we were doing things in the space before there were Lincoln Bio tools. Right.
I think it's that and I think you can thoroughly look at it. There's a much bigger picture. I mean, it's very glacial, right? You're looking at just one small part of it as opposed to this bigger piece of the puzzle, right? And
sure, and by the way, I think like if you are old enough to remember the early web in the 90s, what was it all back then? It was all CMSs, right? Mm-hmm. It was like, how do you get something on the web? Yeah, I think Lincoln Bio is sort of the analog to that, right? It's like, how do I be on the web, right? It's the equivalent or solution in that realm. But as we come up on time, before we go, we should just do a little promo for next week. Up next, by the way, we do have our friend Amber Case. She will be joining us. She is a brilliant mind, but is also an advisor to the Unlock protocol, which is helping to leverage NFTs and crypto to build communities and membership programs for creators and fans alike. So it's super excited to have Amber on to chat with her. We do have a full roster. Oh, you know what? I forgot to put our office hours is here. Yep. Tuesdays, in case you don't know, actually, I think I have another slide here. We do have 3 shows a week. So on Tuesdays at 10 a.m., we have Created Hours, which is our office hours format. Feel free to drop in, ask your question. On Wednesdays, we have our interview series, Created Economy, which is where we'll be chatting with Amber. And on Fridays, as you probably are aware because you're listening right now, we have Creative Briefs, which is our news show at 8 a.m. I wonder if it would be better if we did all the shows at the same time somehow, Ken. But what
is it? Variety is the spice of life.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. In any event, we do have some great guests coming up. Peter Shankman will be here on the 27th. John Allen on November 3rd. And Tom Buck, our friend, YouTuber and creator, will be joining us on November 10th.
Nice.
So if you would like to be a guest, feel free to head over to creativeeconomy.com/guest list. It is a great place for you to drop your name in. We are booked up for the rest of the year for our interview series, but it doesn't mean that we can't have guests with us for the news, and certainly come lead a conversation with us during office hours. So part of why we wanted more show surface areas to be able to incorporate more voices into what we're doing. So thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Ken, any closing thoughts before we head out?
No, I mean, God, I can't believe we've gotten this far, but eager to wrap up the year with some great guests. But you know what, everyone, have a great weekend. If you have articles or any insights or feedback, feel free to ping Greg and I, and we will talk to you on Tuesday.
All right. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
I wish I could get this. This is so hard still. This slide doesn't fit. Why is this slide not fit?